Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, Romans, countrymen. Welcome to Sweeney's Take, episode 5. It is Thursday, July 30th at 7:30 p.m. The other day, someone said a comment. They were trying to give me an insult. And they're like, "You're not actually live streaming." Thank you. They're suggesting it's pre-recorded. 7:30 p.m. Can we see that? I'll try to zoom in after this at some point. We are live. We are in action. We are completely uncontrolled, unconstrained, unrestricted, firing like Spitfire, firing like magma. And I've got a good show for you guys here today. It's one that's been long awaited, a subject matter that a lot of you guys have been asking me for me to touch on, which is whether or not Zoran Mamdani is a fraud. I think we know which direction I'll probably be heading in. And I'm going to give you guys a presentation, if you will. And I hope it's persuasive, but not in the conventional sense of persuasion. I hope it's persuasive in the sense that you look at the data points I'm giving you and you look at the objective facts, almost like a jury. I want you to weigh what I'm saying to you very equally, okay? If you've got the balance of scales, okay? And I want you to walk away and think about whether or not I've convinced you and I have shown you some things, be they chinks in the armor or an expanded worldview, because as I have railed on and on about ad nauseum sometimes, I believe this person to be a grade A, elite, creme de la creme level fraud. And so I've compiled just a few sort of streamlined exhibits, if you will, if the judge and jury would let me submit them to you, to show you kind of the things that I've seen and sort of tracked in the data points and benchmarks. But before we get into that, I always like beginning and ending with a little bit of beauty. So I'm going to show you something I watched today that didn't bring me to tears by any means, but really struck a human chord with me. And this is Kanye West's recording of Through the Wire. And it lasts about a minute. I'll never share anything longer than a minute, so you guys get to hear me loud and clear. But just experience this one with me. It's beautiful. It's coming, don't worry. You feel his energy? It worked.
And for a chance to be with you.
Wait for it.
2. And for a chance to be with you.
Wait for it. With me. Pop your head a little. Come on. Beautiful. I'd gladly risk it all. Man, say what you will about Kanye West. That is beautiful. And I hope whenever you come on to Sweeney's Take, you don't think of me as a pundit. You don't see me as some talking head. You don't think I'm in any way, shape, or form orthodox in any manner. You come away from Sweeney's Take after 30 minutes and you say, wow, that was one unique individual. I may not agree with everything he says, but he's coming across in zeros and ones with a surefire piece of conviction, okay? You might not, see eye to eye with me in a lot of things, but you will feel my authenticity, okay? And what I have to talk to you guys about today has nothing to do with Kanye West. It has a lot to do with what I think is grand level 07, 08 schemes of fraud levels. I'm talking fraud that collapsed our economy and fraud that is being perpetuated on New Yorkers in the form of someone that truly is anti-American in every way that someone can be. And someone who I will show you is a shape-shifting snake. He is a phantasm. He is someone that appears like an apparition in one place, then moves forms and becomes a totally different person in another. And what I wanted to start off with to sort of premise this conversation and why I think Zoran is kind of the poster child for this kind of misstep and this misalignment that a lot of people are missing. So I want to start off with the most iconic speech in the entire civil rights movement, which was by Martin Luther King, "I Had a Dream." And I want you guys, you probably haven't heard of this in a while. I didn't listen to this speech since, I think, middle school or high school, maybe even elementary school. But I want you guys to listen to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King. And like I said, it's a minute and 10 seconds. But I want you to think critically. And maybe you haven't heard this in 10, 20 years. Think about the words he's saying, and I will analyze them with you. And then I will discuss with you why they're applicable to this disjointed perception and understanding of Zohar Mamdani. So watch these with me. And before I share this clip of MLK, I should also say, I've referenced Fact Machine before in different episodes. They are this is burgeoning a word? Exploding company here, and I always like helping small businesses. They ran a poll today on whether or not you can trust Mamdani. And here's the graphic for Fact Machine. You can see Mamdani here. I think, watch, it's pretty demonstrative. You know, nice little guy, meeting someone. What's he doing? Where's his hand going? Taking an old lady's wallet. That's not very nice. Look at it. Where's my money? Can you trust her? This is a live poll. You guys can go to this website right now and bet on it and win money on whether or not the majority of people will agree that you can trust him or not. Now, of course, I would never suggest that Zohar Mamdani is going to steal an old lady's wallet. But if you are stealing her money via taxes, what's the difference at the end of the day to the lady's bottom line? If she can't afford groceries and it's because the increase of costs caused by government intervention, what's the real difference, okay? You're getting robbed one way or the other, whether it's hand-to-hand or whether it's done through the IRS and state machinery, doesn't really make that much of a difference. Let's listen to MLK, and I'll tell you why this is applicable.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
Let me just stop real quick there. Why don't we have speakers like MLK anymore? You know, say what you will about MLK, and everyone's got a different opinion on him. You could tell he spoke with such conviction and such sincerity. It's this booming, echoing, almost larger-than-life superhero presence. Today, we're left with people like Cori Bush and AOC who are so fake, it's dripping off them. You might not like MLK, but he was someone who believed in the things he was doing, and you could feel it vibrating all the way across the decades until now.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Let me just stop there. All men are not created equal, okay? And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about the fact that some men are created tall, some are short, some are intelligent, some are born unintelligent, some are born very ambitious and creative, some are born to be lazy. And if I just looked across the diversity, even when I was in college, you know how many friends that I had that their total ambition in life was to sit back at a frat house and rip bong hits all day? Like we've all seen Tommy Boy. There are so many people that are completely unequal. It's not to say certain people are born better than others, but it's to say that this whole facade, and it's, you know, shoved down our throats this day and age of this desire for an egalitarian outcome in this utopian Shangri-La society where, oh, because everyone's equal, there should be equal outcomes. Nah, I don't feel like I'm equal to a lot of different people. A lot of people are smarter than me and more successful than me. And there's probably no one who could talk the bolts off a bridge like me. You know what? I'll give myself my own pat in the back for that one. But people are not inherently equal. People are inherently unequal. And that's the beauty of the human spectrum. I'll let it play. Powerful.
That one day on the red hills of Georgia,
Red Hills of Georgia. It's just
sons
verbiage.
of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
Beautiful.
I have a dream
Beautiful.
that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression,
Facts.
be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream.
Listen, and pay attention to the words, okay?
My four little children
It's kids.
will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
We all know that line. It's almost enshrined, almost like the Declaration of Independence, into the brains of every single American, that we are not to judge others by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Incidentally, I totally agree with that. But you can't sit here, not one person listening to this, whether it's live or listening days from now, whenever you have the time, there is not one person worth their salt who's not dumber than a bag of hammers that can sit here and say that we are living in a society right now where folks are being judged for the content of their character and not for the color of their skin. What was affirmative action? You might disagree or agree with the program and its intentions, but that was state machinery basing and classing people not on the content of their character, but on the color of their skin. And I'll tell you why this is applicable to Zoran Mamdani, and if I can be a control group or a foil, I'll show you a little reason why, okay? I did not grow up with a trust fund like he did, all right? My first job was working at a McDonald's. I was flipping burgers like none other. I busted my ass. I was hollering at every single girl at the drive-thru that I could, for like 100, whatever. That's what 14-year-old kids do. You know, you're overexcited, you're exaggerated. Flipping burgers. I started working at Quiznos. After Quiznos, I was power washing houses, laying brick, laying mulch, 90 degrees outside, 350 on the kitchen. I started bouncing bars. I was driving taxis on the Jersey Shore. Wally's Transportation still owes me about $500,000 in back wages today, and justice will come to Wally's. But in all seriousness, I came up, and I'm not saying that I grew up rougher than anyone on planet Earth. There are folks that had a rougher upbringing than I, but I did not grow up like Zoran Mamdani did, and that's why you could light a match off of my palm, and his palms, never met the guy, but I bet you they're softer than tapioca pudding, okay? But when you look at me, I come across and present in this day and age in New York City, in America broadly, as a white person, and because of that, privilege is read into me. Let me break this down for you. I wasn't given a dime. Every single thing that I have in my life, I've had to grab from the proverbial and primordial mud, okay? But because of the level of melanin in my skin, I don't get certain passes. Zoran does. And one example I always try explaining to folks, and you really need to hone in on this. When I'm explaining things to you, I'm trying to articulate in very precise ways so you can understand the concept. Let's just say I present as blonde hair, blue eyes, the sterling silver example of an Aryan, raced person. Just very Nordic looking. We're talking like, white skin that can't see a shred of sun without turning into ox blood, right? I'm blonde hair, blue eyes. Just don't fight the hypothetical. And I'm born in the United States. And I live here for 6 or 7 years. Then suddenly, through the accidents of circumstance and fortune, my family moves me to, of all places, Uganda. And I'm growing up and I'm, still very attached to the United States and going back and forth, but I'm living in Uganda, and as I go through adolescence, I'm starting to understand and look around and judge the environment around me, and I'm starting to sense, wow, people with blonde hair and blue eyes here are starting to be pretty popular. Maybe, just maybe, I should run for office in Uganda's biggest city. And I do. And by some weird series of events, I am able to convince folks, with my blonde hair and blue eyes, in Uganda, that I know what it's like to be a struggling Ugandan. I can relate to you guys in these impoverished communities in the city's capital, what it feels like to be constricted by economic restraints. I know what it's like here with my blonde hair and blue eyes from America. Guys, I can relate to you. Trust me, I know what it's like to not be able to afford a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk or a carton of eggs. That is exactly what Zoran Mamdani is, but you can't really see it because he presents as this person of color. He is a silver spoon rich boy, and take dead aim on the rich boys. He is a Trustafarian. His family has homes still in Uganda. Go figure there's no pied-à-terre tax for a second home there. It's a property overlooking this bluff and hills. Why is it that he was able to perpetuate such a grandstanding and honestly impressive, deceptive campaign to have people in Brownsville, Brooklyn, Americans who went up and down cycles of poverty for generations, look at him and say, this guy gets it? That would never fly for a blonde guy in Uganda. It should have never flown here in the United States of America, especially not in New York City. And anyone who swallowed that pill is gullibility on steroids meets crack meets meth. You guys have been duped. And I'll show you the level of the dupe, okay? Before Zoran was mayor, there's a lot of recordings of how he used to be and what he became into. And when I say shapeshifter, I'm talking about we're watching X-Men and we got someone, what's the one lizard lady's name? Was that Charlize Theron? We got to get a tech team in here and have a live Google. I just like spitting. I don't like doing my own research. Deal with it. I think it was Charlize Theron, but she turned into like Rebecca Ramos. She turned into like 8 different people at once. That's Zoran. I'll show you. Watch this with me because it's honestly jaw-dropping. And I'll pause it along the way to just show you some examples.
I'm a democratic socialist. I actually created a playlist for
I actually created a playlist. Listen.
for Mira, who also happens to be my mother.
I actually created a playlist for Mira, who happens to be my mother. Brother, you sound like Abu, the cashier at 7-Eleven from The Simpsons. Why don't you talk like that right now?
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Brother, we know. We're looking at it. Now listen to him just a few years later when he needs your vote.
We need our internet because we have all of...
We need our internet. Bro, you sound like Dennis the Menace. You sound like the kids I used to shove into lockers for their milk money in high school.
Our kids staying at home doing remote learning. And if you don't have internet, you can't be taught, you can't learn.
If you can't have internet, you can't be taught and learn. That's when he needs your vote. When he needs your vote, he's someone completely different. Behind the scenes, when he wants to pursue rapping after liberal arts college at Bowdoin, this is how he's talking.
I was supposed to assist the music supervisor, but I ended up...
I was supposed to assist the music supervisor. Bro, what? What?
picking all the songs for the film.
City Hall is engulfed in corruption.
City Hall is engulfed in corruption. I'll let it play, but I'm having fun. It's just so night and day of a difference.
A mayor could change this, and that's why I'm running.
Apparently, you are a rapper too.
That's a good control group. You can tell this woman, that's her actual accent. Apparently, you're a rapper too. And I'm not making fun of, let's be very clear, I'm not making fun of anyone who has an accent. I think accents are awesome. I'm making fun of someone who puts on an accent to gain favor and curry favor in different rooms, depending on who's in it. There's a big difference. Don't ever make fun of someone for having an accent, or you'll have to answer to me. Make fun of people for changing like a chameleon to gain your votes. Then you'll get a gold star from Sweeenie.
To be a rapper, I am a rapper proper.
I'm a rapper proper. No, dude, you're a fraud, okay? They would have sold you out of Goldman Sachs back in the day when they were selling subprime mortgages and wrapped you up in a convertible, okay? That's how fraudulent you are. And he goes through this metamorphosis. Should that be what we call a metamorphosis? And he starts to understand, oh, if I straighten up a little bit, I can get elected to assembly. He goes to the assembly, and what does he do the entire time he's there? He's calculated. He's Machiavellian. He's reading the room. He's talking to PR. He's getting a team around him. He's understanding media a little bit. And he's starting to build a coalition because he thinks, wow, I see Cuomo. I can make him look like an establishment old Italian guy. I see Sliwa. I can make him look like an eccentric with a bunch of cats. I'm a young person. They don't really understand that I'm kind of like that blonde in Uganda. Maybe I just run with it. So for years, he's building up this groundswell of support very strategically. And what is he not doing, incidentally, in Albany? He's not passing bills. 3 bills. 3 bills. The entire time that he's in Albany, 3 bills. He's not doing what he was elected to do. And before anyone responds, and here's another statistic, okay? He missed, in 2025, he missed 50% of the votes even called. And before the peanut gallery comes out, because I know how you guys do this, okay? To respond and say, well, of course, he was campaigning for mayor and he was successful. So that can't be a bad thing that he missed all those bills because he was on to greater projects. Listen to me right now. That's the problem. Do you guys not understand that issue, especially when there's no term limits or there's consecutive term limits? When you elect someone, the primary objective they have, if they are slippery than a snake, is to get reelected. And I'll give you an alternative reality. Let's say that he had lost the election for mayor. Wouldn't you want your money back for a vote for him? I just voted for this guy. He's been in Congress for 4 years. He's been in the state assembly for 4 years, and all he's been doing is building a ground campaign for his mayor. Then he lost. Brother, we elected you to pass legislation. We did not elect you to become electable. That is what we call a demagogue. That is what we call a charlatan. That is what we call a fugazi, right? It's one of those. This person is a phantom. He doesn't really understand pretty much anything about civics, much less economics, much less political science. What he understands is how to play the media and make you think that he is relatable to you, when nothing could be further from the truth. And what does he do as soon as he starts seeing this groundswell of support and start sensing his popularity and start getting drunk on his own power, he goes, all right, well, I can appeal to a lot of radical bases here for a lot of different reasons. Let's see, as soon as he starts getting a little bit of gravitas in the commie quarter, this is him.
We came here to remake this state in the image of our people.
What? Sometimes you see things like that, like you're just like, well, it's pretty obvious that person should not be elected, right? You just, to me, I don't know, I have a pulse, I've got blood flowing through my veins. I'd like to think I've got some brain activity. You see a video like that.
We came here to remake this state in the image of our people.
I'd say the super majority of people with brain activity are like, yeah, we probably shouldn't elect that guy to an American public office. It's probably not the capital of the world and the leader in the last bastion of Western civilization. Probably not good to say, we came to remake the state and image of our people. Maybe that's a bad idea to elect that guy. Maybe someone maybe more tepid. Maybe someone, here's a radical idea, who loves America. So he starts diving into this radical base and he starts appealing to these radical elements. He starts charging after federal officials. And here is him riling people up, which is what a leader should not do, should unite people, okay? Here's him going after Homan in an effort to, I don't know exactly what. Say what you will about Homan, say what you will about ICE, but if you are one of these people that is suicidally empathic enough to suggest we shouldn't have ICE or we shouldn't have any deportation bodies or shouldn't have borders for that matter, you belong in one of those padded rooms with a jacket that's hugging the back of your spine doing circles. That's called insanity. That is a DSM diagnosis. I don't know what chapter. It's been a while since I read the DSM, but it belongs right in there if you believe we shouldn't have borders. Here's him going after Homan.
How many more New Yorkers? How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? I can't speak for Tom Homan. I believe in the First Amendment, which is great because it allows me to do this. Zoran, you're a fraud. You are a demonstrable shapeshifter. You wear a different coat in a different room. You're glad-handing with all the jet ski. You're out there in Aspen. You're out there in Palm Beach. You're out there in the Hamptons, meeting with all the one percenters. You're getting donations from George Soros. You're getting donations from the billionaire classes, the limousine liberals, the champagne socialists out there. And then you're purporting to understand and be one with the masses. Zoran's the kind of guy who's driving through in a limo through Uganda that's like to his chauffeur, hey buddy, roll this up. There's a lot of poor people outside. That's what he is. He's on ski trips telling the guy, the butler at the lodge on top of Sun Valley to hop to it. He needs another hot chocolate with some of those square little marshmallows. He's like Macaulay Culkin in Richie Rich. Then he goes over to the Bronx where people are getting shot left and right. And he's like, I know, brother, you're telling me. I was paintballing when I was 12. I can relate. I got shot in the elbow. It turned my joints red for a week. He doesn't understand what coming up rugged is like because he didn't come up rugged. He came up soft. There is Charmin in his blood. And I don't even mean that as a personal assessment. I don't mean that as a invective against him as an individual. I mean to show and expose and illuminate who this person really is. And he puts people in power. Let's talk about C. Weaver, who says home ownership is a tool of white supremacy. Here's Zoran's family's home in Uganda. Is that white supremacy to you? Dude, if I was there, I would be drinking pina coladas. No, I'd be doing margaritas in a blender, like Jimmy Buffett, R.I.P., gone too soon. Margaritaville, fantastic song, by the way. Should end one of my episodes with one of those. I'd be doing laps. I'd be kicking my feet up. This, if you see this picture, that's Mamdani. Now juxtapose that of him pamphleting out in the ghettos of Queens. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is a fraud of the most grand and outlandish scale. And he gets a pass because of his skin color. Let me break that down in reverse order. That is not judging him for the quality of his character. It's judging him based on his skin. That is the exact opposite of the world Martin Luther King, the heralded poster child and visionary and revolutionary of the left, dreamt of. And I'll reverse that as well, if I can act as a foil or a contrast. If I, notwithstanding the fact I grew up a lot rougher and did many minimum wage jobs growing up, exhausted like my back was going to break. If I go to these outer boroughs and impoverished neighborhoods, because of this society we've built through wokeism and cancel culture and this mass mob mentality of the left, I will get profiled as being some rich, entitled white boy. That's Mamdani. Do you see what I'm saying? Did that all tie in nicely like a French braid? The content of one's character is what should be judged, not the color of their skin. And Mamdani gets passes left and right because of that. He's going out there trying to shoot hoops. He's playing rap music in his videos. You can identify with Biggie and Tupac, brother. Those people would chew you alive. You can't put up a $135 on the bench and you're talking about protecting a city from invaders. It's just at this point like a psychosis of different degrees. And I see this every single day. And people will respond and they'll say, I really don't know what you're talking about. I follow them on social media. And I'll say, well, that's why. There have been so many leaders in world history that have done despicable, inhumane things that were simultaneously adored by the people of their city or their country. Fidel Castro would walk through the streets of Havana and little children would run up to him. He'd throw them on their shoulder. He'd be walking around, shaking everyone's hand, hugging people in the streets. Right now, the Pearl of the Antilles has no electricity, and then they'll blame it on America, not on communism, of course. Joseph Stalin, same thing. Adored for his revolutionary tactics. Mao, same sort of style, okay? Adored. Kim Jong-un, okay? Adolf Hitler. I know that's a radical take, but it's absolutely true. He was someone, despite the absolutely abhorrent record of abuses that he committed on innocent people, was loved by millions of people. And I am not suggesting, don't make that false equivalence at all, that Mamdani is a Castro, a Hitler, a Stalin, a Mao, a Kim Jong-un. What I am very clearly expressing is the power of the media and the power of using propaganda to convey to people who are unsuspecting or unawares and make yourself out to be something that you're not. How many different accents can he have? How many different properties can he own? How many limousines and jets can he ride around on in bulletproofed Ubers and black Escalades do you really need to see for that point to be driven home? And I'm not even taking aim at folks who were born of wealth. Some of my best friends are trust fund kids, but they understand the debt of gratitude that they have, and they would never be so presumptuous as to going to impoverished neighborhoods and suggesting they could relate to people who were born and live in poverty. Mamdani is perpetuating that con. He is trying to pretend that he is a man of the people, that he is one of the tired, poor, huddled masses of the world that is enshrined in the Statue of Liberty. He's flying above the Statue of Liberty and would have been first class in the Concorde if it was still running right now. That is the point. That is the takeaway. That is the extraction when you're taking it out of a beaker glass and measuring a politician, which is what he is, and he is a professional politician. So I hope you understand the things that I am saying. I hope you understand the words that I'm sort of conveying to you. And my word of caution would be, when you are seeing his social media posts, is look at the facts that are underlying them. He does a outrageously good job on social media, but that's the scariest part, is he is masking the most incipient, dangerous flow and creep of governmental intervention we've ever seen, and anti-Americanism we've ever seen, and anti-Western values that we've ever seen in American history. In American history, we have never had someone elected to such a big office that fundamentally disagrees with Western values, and there is no way that you could ever tell me or convince me that he is not the exemplar of anti-Western values, okay? He puts on this facade and people buy it because it's posts like Humans of New York, where he's glad-handing and laying down on marble floors in Grand Central and doing crayon drawings. What I would implore you to do is look at the actual facts. It doesn't matter how many finger paintings he's doing in elementary schools on Thanksgiving to look like turkeys if he is robbing you blind. if he's pushing out the value adds and giving spotlight to the value detracts. It doesn't matter how many macaroni and glue figure paintings he can do at a middle school if he is simultaneously going to Rikers Island and breaking bread with literal murderers and rapists. Do you understand that? That's what I'd ask you to do, is to set aside all of the faux and phony and fugazi and fake deception that he is clouding and polluting this city with, and just look at the facts. And if you want a place to just look for the facts, ladies and gentlemen, you're staring at it. It's coming across to you in zeros and ones. I will give you the facts. You might not agree with them. You might find them grotesque. You might find them unappealing, but often the truth is. And when you come to Sweeney's Take, I promise you one thing, which I started in the beginning, which I'll end with, you will always get the facts, you will always get the truth, and you will always get my conviction. And I started with something beautiful, and I always try ending it with something beautiful. So this is another song I'm going to leave it out with. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, there's a million things you could be doing with your time. We have busy lives, busy schedules. We've got ambitions. We've got endeavors. We've got family members that are struggling with certain things. We might be experiencing downfalls in our current lives. So any time that you spend 10 seconds with me, 10 minutes, much less 30, listening to me, I can't express my gratitude more fully. So as we end the stream, just shy over 30 minutes, I always try to keep it right around half an hour. I want to say thank you for joining. Let's listen to Stand By Me by Oasis as we fade and flow into this beautiful Thursday night in New York City. Arguably the best band of all time. Arguably. If you're not up on your Oasis lore, you're letting the best of life pass you by, my friend. Saw them in concert last year, the reunion tour. Magic. Magic.
Made a meal and threw it up on Sunday.
What?